CPLR Article 2. Article 201 says an action must be commenced within the time specified in this article unless a different time is prescribed by law or a shorter time is prescribed by a written agreement. No court shall extend the time limited by law for the commencement of an action. 202. An action based upon a cause of action accruing without the state cannot be commenced after the expiration of time limited by the laws of either the state or the place without the state where the cause of action accrued, except that where the cause of action accrued in favor of a resident of the state, the time limited by laws of the state shall apply. 203. The time within an action must be commenced shall be computed from the time the cause of action accrued to the time the claim is interposed. An action is commenced by filing a summons and complaint or a summons with notice. A special proceeding is commenced by filing a petition only. A defense or a counterclaim is interposed when a pleading containing it is served. 204. Where the commencement of an action has been stayed by a court or by a statutory probation, the duration of the stay is not part of the time within which the action must be commenced. 207. If cause of action accrues against a person without the state, the time within which the action must be commenced shall be computed from the time he returns to the state. If after the cause of action accrued against a person and that person leaves the state and remains continuously absent for 4 months or more, or that person resides within the state under false name, the time of his absence or living under the false name is not part of the time within which the action must be commenced. Remember, if the person leaves the state, the time tolls after 4 months. 208. If a person entitled to commence an action is under a disability of infancy or insanity at the time the action accrues, the time within which the action must be commenced shall be extended to 3 years after the disability ends or the person under the disability dies. It's plus 3 years to commence an action once disability ends, shall not extend beyond 10 years. 209. War. War will toll the time to commence an action from the time between the commencement of the war to the termination of hostilities. 210. If a person dies before an action is commenced, if the claimant dies, his estate has 1 year to commence the action. If the defendant dies, you have 18 months to commence an action against his executor or administrator. 211. Actions to be commenced within 20 years. Bond. On a money judgment. By state for real property. By guarantee of state for real property. For support, alimony, or maintenance. One more time. 1. Bond. 2. Money judgment. 3. By state for real property. 4. By guarantee of state for real property. And 5. For support, alimony, or maintenance. 212. Actions to be commenced within 10 years. To recover real property. Redeem real property from a mortgage. Letters patent. Alien. One more time. Must be commenced within 10 years. 1. To recover real property. 2. To redeem real property from a mortgage. 3. Letters patent. 4. Alien. Actions which must be commenced within 6 years. Article 213. 6 years. When no limit is prescribed by law. Contract. sealed instrument, mistake, fraud when discovered, mortgage of real property, public property, corporation against former director, officer, or stockholder. One more time. Must be commenced within 6 years. 1. When no limit is prescribed by law. 2. Contract. 3. Sealed instrument. 4. Mistake. 5. Fraud when discovered. 6. Mortgage of real property. 7. Public property. 8. Corporation against a former director, officer, or stockholder. 213 little a. Must be commenced within 4 years. Rent overcharge. 213b. 7 years to commence. Crime. Action of a victim. 213c. 5 years to commence. Sex crimes. Criminal action is not required. If a criminal action was commenced, the plaintiff, victim, shall have 5 years from the termination of the criminal action. 214. 3 years to commence. Against the sheriff, officer for non-payment of money collected upon execution. Action to recover upon liability, penalty, or forfeiture. Chattel. Injury to property. Personal injury. Malpractice other than medical, dental, or podiatric. Annul marriage for fraud. One more time. Must be commenced within 3 years. 1. Against the sheriff or officer for non-payment of money collected upon execution. 2. An action to recover upon liability, penalty, or forfeiture. 3. Chattel. 4. Injury to property. 5. Personal injury. 6. Malpractice other than medical, dental, or podiatric. And 7. Annul marriage for fraud. 214a. 2.5 years to commence. Malpractice for medical, dental, or podiatric. 1 year to commence. Discovery of a foreign object. 1 year from the discovery. 214b. 2 years to commence. Injury caused by contact or exposure to phenoxy herbicides while serving in the armed forces of the United States in Indochina from February 28, 1961 till May 7, 1975, that may be commenced within 2 years from the date of the discovery of the injury. That's Agent Orange. 214c. 3 years to commence. Exposure. And exposure means absorption, contact, ingestion, inhalation, implantation, and injection. One more time. 3 years to commence exposure. And the exposure means absorption, contact, ingestion, inhalation, implantation, injection. 215. 1 year to commence. 1. Against the sheriff or coroner or constable. 2. For assault, battery, false imprisonment, malicious prosecution, libel, or slander. 3. An arbitration award. 4. Interest overcharge. 5. By a tenant pursuant to a real property law. And 6. Against an officer for the escape of a prisoner arrested or imprisoned by virtue of a civil mandate. Also 1 year to commence. When a criminal action has been commenced against the same defendant, the plaintiff shall have at least 1 year from the termination of the criminal action. 5 years to commence. When a criminal action against the same defendant has commenced and such criminal action is rape in the first degree, criminal sexual acts in the first degree, sexual abuse in the first degree, and course of sexual conduct against a child in the first degree. the plaintiff shall have 5 years from the termination of the criminal action. 4 months to commence against a body or officer, Article 78.